We're live. We did it. We're officially podcasters. Episode 1 of the Dry Scoop podcast. I like that name. I just came up with it this morning while I was sitting in the sauna.
The Dry Scoop podcast?
Yeah, so we're going to roll with it. Does anybody here dry scoop?
Fiber.
No. Fiber. No. I don't either. I always made fun of people who dry scoop. So, but yeah, this is...
You guys take supplements? Because I don't.
I don't, no. I don't put that stuff in my body. Whole food only. Yeah, first episode. So we're going to get right into it. For all of our listeners out there and the people watching this video, we just created a discount code, DryScoop10, on the TitanNutrition.com website. So yeah, we're going to get right into it. Brian, tell us a little bit about some of the new products we have sitting right here, and then kind of where we're heading into 2025.
That's a big conversation. We'll probably kind of
generalize
unwrap. Yeah, so 2025, we're doing a rebranding. Titan, we've had, for the most part, we've subtle changes as companies do, but we've had pretty much the same logo since 2006. While we have made label changes, it's been label changes, like changing what our current label looks like, and you kind of go through. So we did a complete rebranding throughout all the old and just started over. So we've said, really in 2022, the brand was kind of a startup again. With change of ownership and I guess a consolidation of ownership and stuff. So this is really kind of our coming out with, this is exactly what we want the line not only to look like in terms of the formulations that takes, it's a big ship to turn around. So it takes a long time to get the current ownership and management, our thoughts and our ideas and stuff down into at the product level, sitting on the shelf, for the consumer. And now wrapping those in a label that we think fits the message, the brand, and the feel of the company. So that's all. Tyler has the master plan, if you will. Tyler has that job to start rolling out here in January 25.
Yeah, we'll definitely need to get into behind the story of how we got here.
Yeah.
When Frank gets in, Frank would be a good person to have on and talk about.
It'd be a long
podcast. Yeah, we'll have to break it up into parts. But how we got here, why we decided to do this, and where we're headed. So it's a funny story.
These products here, we're talking about the peppermint bark and the swole shot. The swole shot, that was, he mentioned Frank, that was kind of the pet project of one of our. It wouldn't be fair to call him the sales president. That's his title. Frank does a lot more with branding and because he's been in just different facets of the industry, and his product knowledge and stuff is, like I said, beyond just what you would want in a president of sales. But that was so the Swole Shot, it's a liquid pre-workout. It's got 20 grams of glycerol. For those who don't know, glycerol helps hydration at the cellular level. So it's a good pump product, but where typical pump products are going to be, you get the intravascular pump. So it's going to, citrulline, we'll just use the one ingredient, but among other ingredients, citrulline converts to arginine, and then inside the blood vessel turns to the gas nitric oxide, and it makes your veins bigger. So that's kind of the pump. What you get from a typical nitric oxide product. While this has nitric oxide ingredients in it with the S7, glycerol, it gives you a pump at the cellular level. So instead, not just a large, vascular, like intravenous pump, but this is, the example I could use best is when you go and you get a true pump at the gym, not just you get intravascular, but your muscles are like engorged, they're full of blood, they're full of
feel tight,
water, they tight, like that intercellular tension, like that sticks with you for a couple hours after leaving the gym, because your muscles hold water better. When you're holding in the muscle cell, not only is it like aesthetic, you have this big round full muscle, but it also is great for endurance, muscular endurance, because with that hydration, you're putting more oxygen, more nutrients into that muscle cell. So it's great for bodybuilding, not necessarily competitive bodybuilding, yes, but just general hobby bodybuilding, but also for endurance sports, be it cycling, running, CrossFit, where staying hydrated is really important. So there's some electrolytes, some other stuff in it. Betaine for force production. So just really cool and kind of a fun delivery system, right?
Yeah.
Instead of your always your powder pre-workout and stuff, you have a liquid there, hence the Swole Shot. And then the peppermint bark whey. So we've just been this year we really dove into doing limited release kind of seasonal products. We'll get in more. We'll talk about it later. We'll get in more next year. But this one we did, was this our third? I think we did 3 seasonal flavors. We did the Independence Cake for 4th of July. Just a little over a month ago, we released apple pie for the fall, and then this is our winter flavor, the peppermint bark. I know you guys like it. I'm not a huge. It's white chocolate peppermint. I'm not a huge fan of white chocolate or peppermint, but I've already gone on record to say like this might be the best protein I've ever tried. Just pure taste wise, this might be the best protein I've ever had. It's really good. Yeah,
definitely. It reminds me of an Andes mint. So people out there that really like that, that's a really good flavor. And so, and it's always touch and go, and we do limited flavors. What's going to move really well, but this one will take off because it's awesome.
We did. I need to bring the recipe in, but we had made at home. We made protein brownies with this. Ooh. So they're mint brownies, and they're really good.
Did you make those, or did Kylie make them?
Neither. My mom actually.
Oh, yeah, your mom.
My mom came through and made them. So they're like coconut flour and really healthy.
Yeah.
But they have a lot of protein. They're really good. The test is always the kids. So I have a 5-year-old and a soon-to-be 8-year-old. I think I got one, and they ate the rest of the of them. So yeah. So, but that's the test. Like if the kids eat them, it's like it's a healthy cookie, and your kid tries it. Like, no, this is a bullshit cookie.
So you condone lying to your kids, because I'm going to take notes.
No, you tell them, hey, here's a cookie. Here's a cookie. And you know it's the protein version. Like, no, this cookie doesn't taste good. They leave it sit there.
Yeah.
That's a fail. That's a bullshit cookie. That's a health cookie.
No, let's get into it. One of the things we wanted to talk about, because we're not going to just talk about supplements on this. We'll dive into anything really, what's going on behind the company, what we're working on, but we're all health enthusiasts here. That's probably why we're in the industry to some degree. Coming up, January 20th, got a new president taking office. Some people are happy about that, others are not. But I think for a lot of people in this industry, we're excited with kind of the initiative that was put forth in the campaign of, you have a Make America Great Again, but you have Make America Healthy Again. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be leading that. There's all kinds of ways this could go. One, do you think he's going to get confirmed? Do you think he's going to get in there? And do you think he can actually make whatever? We'll talk about what we think Make America Healthy Again is going to be. But do you think whatever that is, he's going to be able to get it done?
So I do think it'll get confirmed. I think there's a lot of likability for RFK. I won't say just as a populist likability. I won't say the right or left, because I don't think either party, if you're just talking parties, probably really wraps their arms around him at this point. But I think people really like the idea of someone who will go in, buck the system, will get away from some of the regulatory bodies that are controlled by special interests, and someone who really has the interest of the American people in our health in mind. I do believe, I want to believe that RFK, that's the goal. Whether or not he can get, so that, to answer your first question, will he get confirmed? I believe he will. Whether he can make a difference, what does it look like to actually make changes and stuff? And I know you said, hey, we're going to be talking about this, so prepare for it, and I did not. But think about it. So here's what makes a difference. So I think right now there's a huge gap, and let's just take what we know. We're not like these scientific experts, but we're experts in this is our field. Mm-hmm. This is the pool we play in every day. We get up and you're hitting the gym, you're eating for performance, and so you purposely, like, what we educate ourselves on is performance, health, and that right now does not align with what the FDA has said. This is the standard bearer for human health, right? So just put a performance aside.
That's a whole rabbit hole in itself.
So that's I think the first one is one, does the message of what we know to be true in health, and this is always a sliding scale. I think we're always learning stuff. I think even growing up, you guys know I grew up in a very health conscious family. My dad owned a gym. He was we'll call it a hobby bodybuilder, power lifter, very very runner, always fit, remains fit. But we bought like the fat-free foods, when that was popular, and we did. I can't believe it's not butter. Turns out that's complete shit. Right. But it's the willingness to learn and make changes and stuff. Now, so when that stuff's coming out, it's kind of demonizing some foods and then rewarding the foods that are made by like big agriculture. You have the food pyramid with also like breads, grains, and that being the number one, the foundation of what we should eat. And what that leads to is also then these processed foods, because it's all these baked grains and you get away from just natural whole foods. So you end up with what our diet ends up with today. And the reason we're in this situation where 70% of Americans are obese is because you have these highly processed, calorie dense, but nutrient deficient foods. And that's really what the kind of to sum it all up, like that's why we're in this situation. Sodas, sugary sodas, of course, things like that. But what you have now is with the food pyramid and with what we're being told is healthy. You go to the grocery store, what is considered a health food, and cereal's part of a balanced breakfast, and that. So you end up with the wrong message from who should be providing you, the regulatory bodies who should be providing you the correct information for your health. It's actually the opposite. So a long way of saying, I think if he can get in, the first step is to change the message, so people have the right message. Education is really important, and there's a lot of confusion right now unless you're actually in, swimming in those waters. And I think a good example, like the tobacco industry. I mean, we went through this with that.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say the thing about education, and I see that there's not really a consensus on what the education should be, because you look at a lot of people that are talking about, you have the people that coin themselves evidence-based researchers, and they'll take a look at the seed oils and control for the calories and all that stuff. And they say, well, this is why you don't need to worry about seed oils or anything like that, because you can still lose weight. You can still, improve your cholesterol levels doing this. But what I never see them talk about, and what I hear, from the people in the Maha movement talk about, is they're looking at it from a completely different standpoint. The people in the Maha movement, like listening to Casey and Callie Means, they were on the Tucker Carlson podcast, they were on Joe Rogan's podcast. They kind of became the figurehead, those types of people in this movement. They strictly want to talk about the metabolic consequences of putting all these different chemicals, these food dyes, whatever, the seed oils in our diet. They're looking at it completely different. So I'm worried about where's the education going to come from? What's the incentive to change that education? What's the agreed upon education? I don't know if we ever get to that point, because we have this calories in versus calories out, which I think is also true. But you look at how hyper palatable food is now and how addictive food is. Yeah. Food is addictive. Like I can put away a lot of junk food. Yeah. So how do we balance those two? If we know we got to burn more calories than we take in, but we're also having this metabolic dysfunction that's leading to chronic diseases, how do we, in your perfect world, what's the education that we're feeding to people, and even getting it out there? Because look at the marketing and everything that goes with this type of stuff, and the companies involved in it.
I don't want to lump everything together, but when you think of seed oils and stuff like that, seems to be it's a higher level of understanding. It takes people to understand like why those things, put seed oils, put food colorings, dyes, and there's all different ways of doing that and different chemicals that go into that. So that to me is when you're talking like tobacco, or let's even say like tobacco versus cigarettes that have all kinds of tar and things that are put in there, like you mentioned, to make them more palatable, so our body craves more. It's like with cereals. Now you have this trifecta of really palatable. The crunch. That makes you want to. It doesn't get soft in the milk. It's crunchy and it's really colorful. Like you can't advertise. You had to get rid of camel jokes. You can't advertise camels to kids. Right. But you can have Tony the Tiger and the bee and the honeybee and all that. And make cartoons out of it to get kids to want this sugary cereal that's really obviously really brightly colored and targeted at kids. So I think that you can take a lesson from that and say, well, how did we get, how many Americans smoke today versus, 40 years ago? Yeah. It's doable. With the seed oils and stuff, though, I think that's the seed oils, the dyes, that stuff. I think you need to take a look at some of these other countries who've gone along. They don't have the metabolic disease we do, and they've just said, like, this shit here, these chemicals, this isn't okay to put this in our food. Yeah. If we can draw a direct link to some causality from stuff like that, I think and you can ban it with basically no consequences. They have to change the recipe, but we already know these recipes are being used in other countries, so you can start there with that stuff. Then you get to the more broader, because would it be nice if people didn't have food coloring and stuff? Like, sure, there'd be some benefit there, but is that really what's causing this obesity epidemic and the metabolic disease? Probably, if let's say you had, for argument's sake, let's say you had the food colorings and stuff, but you just took out all the refined sugars. Mm-hmm. Like, that's really what it is. That's really what found people in trouble is, I mean, the glycemic index from what we should be getting to what we actually get is wildly higher than we were never designed to be eating. All these sugars and processed carbohydrates is really what it comes down to, as far as just as a populace. And I think that's the bigger picture, is how do you turn that around? So like steak and eggs isn't bad.
Yeah.
Like that's a good breakfast. How do you get people that cereal's really cheap too? And the whole system is designed around making cereal cheap and affordable, and that's what you throw at your kids for breakfast.
Goes back to those corn subsidies.
It does, yeah. And so I don't know how. I guess that's why they're in office. I don't know how you get that message across. But if you can make it so it's desirable for people, this is what you can count. If you can make it so it's desirable for people that they want to spend their money on it, companies will adapt, including Kellogg's and Post and they'll find ways to make a product. Like their end goal is profit. Yeah. And if you can correct the incentives, then they'll change the product to match those incentives.
Yeah. The incentive structure, I think, is going to be the hardest part. The way I look at it, we don't live in a culture or society in America anyway where we incentivize being healthy, but all the things that go along with being healthy, that comes along with the discipline, to get to the gym or to say no to the junk food. Like, I think there's a lot of layers of the onion to peel back to get to. Maybe it's just top of mind because RFK Jr., but I think back to those old videos from the 60s with JFK, where he's talking about, incentivizing a healthy culture, making sure our kids are healthy. And you see those, you've seen those old videos of the kids at the school that are like, it's advanced PE.
They're all fit. Yeah.
They're crazy fit. But like, we talked about that. Seemingly we talked about that at a national level and why it's important to take care of ourselves. And most importantly, like, raise healthy kids. I think being a first time father, like, that's huge. Like, I don't want my kids to just be raised on this institutionalized food. Like, right now they're over at daycare probably getting fed Fruit Loops, but that's a whole other system, right?
Yeah.
How do we incentivize? Who's going to win that battle to incentivize the messaging to be healthy and the benefits that come from that?
As far as the institutional foods, I think that, again, it comes, if you have all these, how do you change a school curriculum? Yeah. You have all the parents and everybody saying, hey, this is wrong. This is what needs changed. Like, this is actually the version of the history that's correct, and we need to change it. So I think the pressures come from people demanding change. And that's why you have a Maha movement.
Yeah.
It's not, RFK is maybe the leader of it, but that shit's brewing. And it's been brewing for a while. And if you can get, I honestly think you have I think, like, our generation, if I put all of us sitting here, which I know we're maybe not.
We're stretching it. He's the
top
end of the millennial range.
But I think if you put us, like, we're a completely lost generation in terms of we went way off course on what's healthy. And so the education process stuff does not match, like you mentioned. Kids like Jordan jump in, like, why are you fit, healthy? Why, like, just legit? Why do you work out the way you do, train the way you do, all that?
Just always had a drive to want to be the best I can athletically. Mm-hmm. Grew up competitive basketball my whole life, so it's just ingrained in me. And I know that to get to that level, you have to be real. You can't be fake in terms of how you work out, how you eat, stuff like that. When I actually switched over to not really tracking in terms of macros, but like
conscious about what you ate,
paying attention,
not processed, I noticed a drastic increase in my performance, as opposed to when it was like ramen noodles and whatever else, cereal for breakfast all the time, is now protein waffles and eggs.
Yeah.
Or rice with beef and eggs or whatever.
And there's a certain standard that you now hold yourself to.
Yeah. I mean, I gained weight, obviously, but it got to a point where my body, I think, just leveled out because it finally had what it wanted and needed to be successful and to perform well.
So I think what he's talking about, what I think is missing is we lost that sense of pride. Like, it's almost a bad thing to be proud of being in shape. You know, if you look like back in the day when you had I'm trying to think of people would know outside, like Arnold, Frank Zane, maybe Stallone, these guys like that you aspired, like they looked like fucking statues, you know, and that was cool, and it was that, I think that was, it stayed like in bodybuilding, and that's a whole nother stuff that took a complete turn into a really cultish, like no longer statues, those turned into cartoon figures.
Yeah.
And while I personally may think it's cool sometimes, I understand that's not where the populace is going to follow, but it is like for Jordan, for me, for you, like there's a sense of pride, and everyone has their own standard, you know, and if there's kind of the national standard is so low right now of what's common, acceptable, like not talked about, and then what personally people carry. And I know if anyone listening, or if you guys even, like, I feel like there's times where I kind of you quote let yourself go. You like you hit a certain number on the, if it's a number on the scale, or look at me like, oh shit, I got to get my shit together. You kind of need that as a whole. Like, oh, I got to get my shit together, and here's how. You've done it. You've gone from, but and when everyone talks to you, like I've said to you, like, you look good all the time. Like, yeah. But not. And
I know.
And vice versa. You've said that to me. Like, I've bitched about being out of shape. Like, oh God, you're like, yeah.
Yeah. Nobody wants to hear Brian talk about being.
But that's the thing. But
I know.
It's all relative. Like,
it 100%.
For me, I can feel out of shape, and it's just one because I have this standard for myself. You too. Like, you have this standard for yourself. Yep. I know that this because you're a CrossFitter. My wife, who's a very competitive CrossFitter, has, you know, she let up. She did the big competition stuff. She's like, okay, I need to back, like, metabolically, just hormonal, everything. She needed to back off mentally, and she did. Well, now she's in this, like, I don't feel good. I don't look like I did. I don't feel like that. But she just did 6 sets of 4 with 300-pound back squats, and like no, you're in like the 1% of 1%.
99.9%.
It's just
be able to do that.
You just have this different standard for yourself, and I think if the best thing we can do is kind of raise the awareness and raise the standard for everybody. To have this, so everyone has a clear outline of how they can improve themselves, and then a new standard of kind of healthy living. Yeah.
Do you think this goes deeper than just food and education, though? Do you think it comes with, like, the advancements in technology, how people want instant gratification?
Definitely.
And they don't want to wait.
There's a lot of factors.
Because look at all the weight loss supplements. I mean, Ozempic's massive right now.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's cutting everything out of your body, not just fat, but it's cutting muscle, it's cutting literally everything.
Right.
So that they can hit that number on the scale.
Just a calorie cut.
Versus having to actually work for it. But when you have to work 60 hours a week to make ends meet, they don't want to spend an hour cooking dinner. They want something they can throw in the microwave.
Yeah.
So I think it's honestly deeper than just education as well. It goes back to the same people pushing that agenda of cereal's good for you are the same people that are chokeholding people monetarily. Forcing them to buy the cheaper stuff.
Yeah. Well, there's definitely a socioeconomic issue with it. I mean, what they call some of the poorest areas in the country food deserts because there's no nutritional value around them. So
I mean, it also goes to the, like, participation trophy era as well. Like, my generation just went through that pretty hard.
Right.
Nobody wants to work for, like, results. They just want to be given something. So the discipline to hold yourself to a higher standard just isn't there because they want people to be like, oh, you're doing great. Yeah. I mean, look at the fat is fit era right now.
Yeah.
Is
the body positivity.
Saying, like, like, you're fat phobic because you work out. No, I work out because I don't want to be like you. Unhealthy. Not necessarily fat, but unhealthy. Like, you're in a diet
if you're being
50,
like really, if you're being like really honest, you could turn around and say with the, hey, I'm heavy, but I exercise, so I'm fit. Like, yes, you are. if you are overweight, but you're exercising and you're cardiovascularly in shape, but your body's not, like, you are better off than someone who's not active.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have more body mass to support. That's more blood for your heart to pump through, more fat for your body to process. Sleep gets disrupted. So there's all those things too. And you can even take to the other extreme. I mentioned like bodybuilding. You can say, well, I'm a bodybuilder, so ultimately I'm very healthy. Well, there's a homeostasis, a balance of where your body was, what you were supposed to weigh, what you're supposed to. So you could be, and I've been not there at the pinnacle of the sport, but I've been, 250 pounds, very muscular. Was I healthy? Ish.
Questionable.
But just, here's the thing, and then take away even the extracurricular supplements and stuff. Like, let's say you were just pushing the amounts of food and what your body could tolerate just for the most muscle mass. Well, it's a lot of food. It's a lot of food for your digestive system, more than what you need.
Dude,
just to be
I haven't had a
healthy.
solid poop in like a month.
So because you're pushing so much
Because
food,
you just push. No, we just push ourselves our breaking point every day,
I can help you with that one.
which is not. It's not healthy at all.
But I mean, I've been there. Trust me. But so you have this. You have that, and then again, your heart's working. Like,
Right.
if you're 30% heavier than what your body would just naturally be at a healthy weight, it doesn't. You can say, well, it doesn't matter if you're pumping it to extra muscle or not. Like, you don't need that fucking muscle. Your heart's working harder because of that. Now, are you more hardy? Are you more durable? Yes, there's those things too. But there's always kind of this balance, this homeostasis that I think. I look at myself as I'm kind of working towards that, but there is also that standard of what, like, people want to look a certain. There's a reason you cut your hair a certain way. The reason you put the clothes you put on, so
Right.
you have a certain aesthetic you want to work towards too, and that's kind of where in the balance, and that's why people pick you whether it be CrossFit or bodybuilding, whatever you decide to do. There's extremes in every case. Runners, there's a lot of instances where these hyper triathletes and marathoners, like, they end up sometimes with heart problems when they're older, because I guess I don't know. I won't speak on why, but there's some imbalance there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. No, you're going back to talking about the standard and stuff, and like the body positivity and all that stuff. Like, I understand that you don't want to bully those people, because if they are at this position where they're going to make better choices for themselves, I think we should encourage that. But on the flip side, those people have to be open to more education, maybe some criticism. But we got to lead people down that right path. But that's kind of the pushback of, having discipline. You're very consistent on what you're doing as far as working out and pushing yourself past your comfort level. I think that gets lost for a lot of people. I think a lot of people on that other side look at people like us that think we're freaks for doing that. And that's what are the downstream effects of, I think they're only good things, of developing the discipline, getting yourself in better shape, strength training, not just doing cardio or anything like that. I think those are important things that get lost in all this. But, if we're getting back to the Maha movement, I think one of the things I wanted to touch on is the pesticides, those companies that are in the foods. I think that's even bigger than probably some of the processing the ingredients to get put in our food.
Yeah.
What are the downstream effects of consuming these processed foods over time for, let's just take an obese person, over their entire life? You won't convince me that even if it's minuscule amounts, that toxicity doesn't build up if that's all you eat.
That's the scary, plastics.
Right.
Throw plastics in there. Like,
Yeah.
I remember, we didn't know. Like, I remember being in college. I wanted a baked potato. I wrapped it in plastic wrap and threw it in the microwave.
Yeah.
I fucking nuked it in plastic. It got soft, and I unwrapped the plastic and ate it.
Yeah.
How much microplastics and I don't know. I was a freak. I was in college. I was doing
nobody
whatever
cared.
I want. Yeah. That's what I say is that's with the dyes. It's that's the bigger thing, because it's not good for you, right? It's not a net good. And then if John Doe was John's going to get cancer, he's going to get prostate cancer at 75. That's just living whatever as healthy life as he can. That's just what's going to happen. Now introduce the plastics, the pesticides, the colorings. Well, now he gets it at 65, 55. We don't know that's from decades of eating that stuff. We just that's pretty common. You know, guys do get prostate cancer in their 60s, and like, no, he would have never. He never. Right. So that's the hard things to determine, and why you kind of need just like if it's we can agree it's bad and it can be eliminated. We should do as much of that as possible, because the ultimate like downstream effects and stuff is we really don't know, and I don't know that you're gonna know for sure. You know, the people with cancer rates being as do
we study that stuff? That's my question: is how do we know if we're not studying?
I think you can, these are lifetime studies. You know,
right.
These are hit the cough button. These are lifetime studies, and you're going to have to be comfortable with some stuff. So like we're not going to know everything.
Yeah.
But if we can agree, like it's negative, it's
right.
not a positive, it's a negative. Does it have to be there? No. Like I eliminate as much of that stuff as I can, and also sometimes I eat processed food because it's convenient.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to live here too.
Right. I think that's what I talk about, balancing the middle of the people that say, oh, it's just calories in versus calories out, because yeah, that's true. I believe that's true because you can see the guys, you've seen probably just like the random headlines in the paper, like this guy lost 30 pounds just eating a Big Mac for every meal, like breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like that's because that's all he's eating all day.
He was eating 2 Big Macs before.
Yeah, right. But if that's controlling for calories, okay, great. But that's not realistic for anybody. That's not realistic for me, who would eat a Big Mac and want 3 more because it tastes so good.
Right.
So that's to me where the balance comes in. It's like, well, just because you can eat this and lose weight doesn't mean you should, and doesn't mean the stuff that's in there isn't bad for you.
Yeah. I feel like that's a big misconception too, is the number on the scale determines health.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
It's a component.
It's at 100%.
Yeah.
But that's not the full picture.
Yeah. Well, it's, I guess, maybe more widely known in our circle, depending on who you follow. But I remember listening to Andy Galpin. He was big in with like the barbell shrug, that original kind of CrossFit crew when CrossFit was coming up. This is like 2012, the first time I heard him mention like a good indicator of how long you're going to live is how strong your legs are, how much muscle mass you have, and your VO2 max.
Yeah.
Those are 3 indicators. And so me being a dude and playing football, you want to be big and have muscles. So it's like, sweet. Now I just have to have a lot of muscle to be healthy, but there's a lot more components.
It's a lot more. Well, it's like that's muscle mass is a measure. It's like muscles, your health organ. It's a measure of longevity. Just working on muscle mass so you live long is like when they say like testing grip strength is a really good test of longevity, and so you're like, well, fuck, I'll just work on this grip strength. You know, and that, like, no. That's a byproduct of all the other work you do. That's what increases your grip strength. That said, I believe because so many diseases you get, whether it is cancer. Let's say you come down with heart disease, you need a heart surgery. I'm trying to think of, these things, kind of they ultimately are end up being muscle wasting disease. Now some of the stuff you can't avoid, but let's say a lot of if it's cancerous metabolic disease, sometimes your body is just weakened to the point you can't fight off the other stuff. You can't fight through the disease. So having abundant muscle mass is one of the most important things and predictors of long-term health, especially optimizing muscle mass and hormone stuff as we age. So you're just kind of resilient. And that could be for, knock on wood, like getting in a car wreck, something like that. You don't want to be frail. That's one thing that we can kind of control. Is kind of our toolbox controls is not being weak, not being frail. If not for aesthetic purposes, so your body's resilient, to the winter and getting a cold and all that stuff too.
Yep. All right, so wrapping it up here, Jordan, give me, what's your wish list? What do you want to see out of the Maha movement? Like, what would be goals accomplished to you?
I just want to stop seeing the industry pushing processed foods, fast foods, and going back to allowing raw milk to be sold in stores, pushing organic foods and not jacking the prices up to $13 a pound on beef.
Taking the industry capture out of everything.
Yeah,
that revolving
that's my
door.
biggest, because, that's what I try to do is eat organic. And for a week's worth of food, it cost me almost $400, which is, I think, is absolutely ridiculous for one person.
Right.
So that's what I want to go, the route that I want to see is just bringing back whole foods of good quality.
Yeah. I definitely want to see. I want to see this incentive structure that creates downhill effects, like back to those JFK videos of the kids in the 60s of that, the advanced PE classes. I'm not saying we got to go to that and every kid's got to look like that, but push the value of that and the benefits that come down from that. Obviously, I want to see the pesticides and all that stuff removed from our foods. And I want the money. I want at least transparency of showing the revolving door between going through these NGOs and then working for the FDA, the CDC, but then they go work for Kellogg's or whoever it may be.
Pharma,
Yeah, get rid of that stuff. If it doesn't have to be in our food, don't put it in our food. That stuff's put in our food because for whatever reason it probably saves them money somehow. It makes
What do you think of a label?
Keeps us
like
sick.
a label. I always keep using the example of cigarettes, but like the Surgeon General's warning or something on a box of Twinkies that says like, "Hey man, enjoy this cigarette, but it's gonna give you cancer."
Right.
These Twinkies, they're fucking terrible for you.
Yeah, better than like the box of Cheerios contains whole grains, which may help you lower cholesterol in conjunction with a healthy diet and exercise.
Yeah,
that stuff's crazy. So.
I hate arguing for more regulation.
Yeah,
I'm also on your side. It's kind of like we need more regulation. We need to ban these chemicals.
We need regulation in the right way.
But you also need the freedom of choice. If you want to drink raw milk, if you want to do that needs to be freed up to it. And I think when you talk about freeing up that regulation, then some prices come down, some barriers come down to it through incentives.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, get the crap out of our food. Incentivize the right things. I think we all work off of being incentivized. So
I just want Big Pharma to burn.
Yeah, I do too. Burn it all down. We'll start anew. What do you got for that?
So what I would like to see, I think the education needs to change, and to do that with different right? We have the wrong guidelines now, so we need some agreed upon guidelines. Food pyramid that needs to change. Whether what that looks like. I have some ideas. I don't know. It's probably not a pyramid anymore, but different guidelines on what's really going to make America healthy. And what we do know is it's not that. It's not the food pyramid and what the current guidelines are. And then secondly is the government's here. Their biggest job is to protect us.
Yep.
And that's not just the military and police, but that's also like
protect our rights.
What are these? Yeah. What right do these companies have like to put this shit in our food? If we know it's poison, if we know it's causing disease, instead of letting it go through and then just on the backside you're kind of rewarding the pharmaceutical industry by treating us like, let's get that shit out of our food. Let's protect our kids. Let's protect our citizenry.
Keep our air clean.
And I think because we have stuff like that. So I think if you can pull some of that stuff, if you can regulate that, and again, I'm not a huge fan of just broad regulation, but if there's a reasons, companies can't just pour chemicals into our water and spout shit into the air. So if we can, why wouldn't we take that same? We already do, but just taking these, we're decades behind. So taking what we know now and putting some of that regulation into our food, and then second, you have to educate the population with kids, like I said, we kind of skipped where there's a lost generation there too, and I think that goes back to changing the guidelines. Yeah,
I think transparency, if they started there and showed, like, hey, did you know Coke donates, $50 million a year to the American Diabetes Association, shit like that, I think people would be, if they hear it officially, because you'll hear people like RFK and then people that you want to smear say it, and then you're not apt to believe it. But if we get that out and like, hey, these companies have that, their incentive structure is to get you to buy their stuff. So to me, the incentive structure is all messed up right now. If we can, I'm good with regulations if the regulations doesn't benefit the incentive for these companies and incentivize the benefits for the individual citizen.
Yeah. Guidelines, regulations, and then that's going to flow into education.
Yep. I think we're good, guys. Wrap it up there.
I think we solved the world's.
We should probably be in the administration.
Bring Barack Obama back.
Administration.
Maybe not. We'll do the next one.
Okay.
Perfect. Catch you guys next time.